ain't the end of me. All the things that I could be. This is the end of you. After all that we've been through. This ain't the end of me. All the things that I could be. This is the end of you. After all that we've been through. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Hearing that, this ain't the end of me. This is the end of you. Oh my gosh, I haven't made a 5 NASCAR drivers you forgot about in a long time. Oh my gosh, how long has it been? I gotta check this real fast. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's been since June? What? Well, I owe you all an apology. I'm Danny B. A lot of y'all subscribed because of 5 NASCAR drivers you forgot about. So let's give you some NASCAR drivers you forgot about. Here we go. In the sport of NASCAR, as I've discovered even more by being in the garage area more often at my recent race trips, it's a full team effort, and the success of that team is often determined by a variety of factors, but that be more the concept for my Rise and Fall series. In this case, I'm focused on drivers, the key player to a team that people will remember more, or in this case, forget about, and it's so easy to slip into obscurity and fade away, as not everyone is destined to become a star, but it's another thing to fight hard to improve your career track, such as someone like Ross Chastain or Alex Bowman. Unfortunately though, more often than not, most could not do this, so this gives us another 5 NASCAR drivers that you may have forgot about. So let's begin. Tommy Kendall. To most motorsports fans, we will always remember Tommy Kendall as a great broadcaster of the sport, in particular the Champ Car Series, with expertise backed up as a premier road course racer, and he was the host for numerous motorsports television shows, and in 2015, he was inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame. And of course, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that many race fans have probably at least heard about his horrendous crash in 1991 at Watkins Glen, when mechanical failure on his Intrepid RMI IMSA GTP car resulted in a crash which would result in Kendall breaking both of his legs. This is actually a key role in why Watkins Glen is the way it is today, as this crash happened in the same time frame as J.D. McDuffie's fatal crash in NASCAR, which also happened in the same section of track, and both of these crashes led to the addition of the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Kendall was a second-generation racer from Santa Monica, California. His father was race car driver Charles Kendall, and Tommy first began his racing career competing in the IMSA GT Championship driving a Mazda RX-7 in the GTU category while in college, and upon the completion of his studies, he would take the 1986 and 1987 championships. He'd then go on to have great success in the SCCA Trans Am Series in the 1990s, scoring 4 series championships, with his best season being in 1997, where he won 11 races in a row out of the 13 races on the schedule. Because of his success here, he was a representative in the International Race of Champions Series for 21 races from 1991 to 1998, in which he'd record 18 top 10s, 9 top 5s, and he'd post an average finish of 6.7. But even with all of this to his credit, his time in NASCAR from 1987 to 1998 is understandably easy to forget, as he was, as you'd assume, primarily a road course ringer with a few starts on ovals as well. So to start off his time in NASCAR, it is appropriate that he began by making starts in what is now the ARCA West Series with 4 starts between 1987 and 1988, in which he got 2 top 5 finishes in 1988. Kendall only made 1 Busch Series start in his career during the 1990 season, and oddly enough it was at Loudon, New Hampshire and not a road course, and in this race he finished 15th racing for Mark Reno. Now finally, there was 14 starts made by Kendall in NASCAR's Cup Series between 1987 and 1998, and again these were primarily road courses, but in all of these 2 would stand out among the rest. In 1990, Kendall would make 3 starts in the Cup Series, the most of any season during his run in NASCAR, and at Watkins Glen he would score his one and only top 10 by finishing in 8th place. But the one that will always feel like the one that got away was the 1991 race at Sonoma, where he led for 12 laps, and with 2 laps to go he was still in the lead en route to his first NASCAR victory. That was, at least until he cut a tire after a collision of Mark Martin, which would result in Kendall going from a win to finishing 18th place. After this, he would never really find himself in that sort of position for a win in NASCAR again. Ashton Lewis. If you're like me and your favorite NASCAR video game of all time is NASCAR 2005, then you probably know this guy rather well, actually. While driving a number 46 car that was so underfunded it literally said advertise here in the game, this guy seemed to be always contending for victories, even winning the championship in my Busch Series rookie year in my career mode. Well, unfortunately, Ashton Lewis's real-life career wasn't as good in comparison to his virtual career. It wasn't horrible by any means considering the equipment he often drove, but I would not fault you for not remembering him considering he only ever raced in the Busch Series. Ashton Lewis was a native of Chesapeake, Virginia who earned a degree in mechanical engineering from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia before his racing career would take off. And at one point that skills in mechanical engineering would actually pay off as he actually served time as an engineer on Jeff Gordon's team for a little while. Much like Tommy Kendall, Lewis was another driver who found his skills to be best on a road course. He began his racing career in a Barber Saab Pro Series in 1992, and after some success here, he was offered a scholarship to race in the British Formula 4 Championship. And by 1993, Lewis made his Busch Series debut at Watkins Glen in a number 36 Parkway Pontiac, in which he finished 27th place. 1994 would bring another one-off start, this time driving number 80 Commerce Bank Chevy at the Milwaukee Mile, finishing 24th to starting 38th. And in 1995, Lewis would receive another opportunity to race at Watkins Glen, and he was able to put together his best weekend up to that point, taking a 22nd place starting position, staying on the lead lap en route to a 13th place finish. Finally, in 1998, having taken 2 years off from attempting NASCAR, he was able to arrange 10 races, 9 of number 89 of Meredith Ruark's team, and the other in the number 9 owned by his father, Ashton Lewis Sr. Now, 2 of these races, South Boston and Charlotte, he was unable to qualify for, but in these other starts, he would produce an average finish of 29.6 with an average start of 37.2. That average finish would likely be much lower if not for his first start of the season in the car owned by his father at Watkins Glen, where despite starting 42nd, he was able to rally to a career-high 3rd place finish. Perhaps after seeing that finish from Watkins Glen, it was best for Lewis's father to own the car, as in 2000, Lewis began racing number 46 for the family team Lewis Motorsports. Lewis attempted 22 starts in 2000, making 11 and failing to qualify for 11 as well. While the team was usually without a sponsor, they were able to have reputable brands like Line-X and Hot Tamales on for 1 race each. In the 11 starts by Lewis in 2000, his best finish was 17th at Michigan, and his average finish was 28.6. 2001 would prove to be a better season for Lewis, and his team ran in all but 1 race that season, and he would finish the year 20th in the standings with 2 5th place finishes coming at Charlotte and Kentucky, as well as a 9th place finish at Memphis. And all this coming without a full-time sponsor was very impressive to most of those in the sport. With this in mind though, Lewis did struggle to complete races in 2001, and he would fail to finish 9 races that season. However, Lewis and his team looked to run better in 2002 with their new sponsor, Civil Air Patrol. And he would do better for the most part, improving to a 17th place points finish, with 1 top 5 being his 2nd place run at his home track of Richmond, and he would finish 8th and 9th 3 times each, resulting in 7 top 10s that season. Really, the reason they finished where they did in the point standings is simple. They had a series high of 12 DNFs. Going into 2003, he had really one goal: finish these races better. And for the most part, he did do that. He only had 5 DNFs in 2003, and he had 10 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and at Gateway, he scored his one and only pole award. He was actually running really well in this race, leading for 44 laps, and when he was running in 5th place, he was unfortunately collected by a crashing Randy LaJoie, resulting in a 33rd place finish in what could have been a great day. Following 2003, the Lewis family lost their sponsor and would compete one final year in 2004, going out swinging as he was in positions to win races, especially at Darlington, where he would end up just barely finishing second to Jamie McMurray. This, along with fewer DNFs, 8 top 10s, and 3 top 5s, would result in a career best 8th place points finish, and the Lewis family team shut down, with Ashton going to race the number 25 Marines Ford, where he just never really run quite the same, finishing 14th in 2005 and 15th in 2006. After this, he would end his NASCAR racing career after 226 Busch Series starts, and as of the most recent check-in of his LinkedIn profile, he is the current Chief Operating Officer of First Team Automotive Group in Chesapeake, Virginia, and he has been in this role since March 2013. Candice Mosley. Now, this is a name that came into NASCAR news again rather recently for less than desirable reasons, but we will get into that. Let's talk about her racing career first. Unfortunately, I just can't find too much more information regarding her beginnings like I can of other drivers, but I do know that she had captured the attention and support of TV personality Jesse James of West Coast Choppers, who was quoted telling the Orange County Register that Candice is a very skilled and patient driver. The sky is the limit for her, and the best thing, she is not shooting for the stars. Well, looking at the stats available on Racing Reference, let's just say I'm glad she wasn't shooting for the stars. Here's what we've got. In 2007, at age 31, Mosley attempted to qualify to number 01 at Irwindale Speedway at Altamont Motorsports Park in the NASCAR K&N West Series, failing to qualify both times. Then, in 2007, with the support of Jesse James's West Coast Choppers, Fox, and Bid for Prizes, she attempted to make the 2007 All-Star Showdown, but with a finish of 8th, she would not advance into the main event. However, in 2009, she'd returned to this very race, driving the number 62 Aero Wrecker West Coast Choppers car, where she'd finished 3rd, advancing into the All-Star Showdown, where she would finish 24th out of 40 cars after a suspension issue. Then finally, she'd return again in 2011, 2 times in number 92 Aero Wrecker Service Toyota, in the K&N East Series, failing to qualify for Dover and finishing 32nd of 36 at New Hampshire. And in 2012, she'd make her final NASCAR start in the K&N East race at Bristol, where she would finish 33rd of 35 cars. After this, she sort of just disappeared until making headlines for the wrong reasons in January of 2020 when she was arrested after slapping a Vietnamese manicurist because she was speaking in her native language to a coworker, according to the Associated Press. This led to a fight in the nail salon in which Mosley pulled a knife on the employee, and she would even end up attacking one of the responding police officers with the knife as well. She served around a month of jail time for this and was released on Friday, February 14th, but on Tuesday, February 18th, sadly she was found deceased in her home by family, and originally her death was ruled as suspicious by the Oklahoma City police, but the coroner did rule it to be an accidental drowning. Certainly, this is by far one of the saddest endings I have read while doing the series, and while this was still a very recent incident, if anything comes up that adds to the story, then I'll be for sure to include it in Danny B Needs a Minute. And to those who are close to Mosley, just know that you do have my deepest condolences, and I am sorry for your loss. Eric McClure. McClure was born in Chilhowie, Virginia, and has served time as both a driver as well as a team owner. And like our last driver, unfortunately the most recent news from him has not been the greatest, considering he was arrested for domestic violence in 2018 and is currently still reportedly in the process of a legal dispute and divorce with the mother of his 7 daughters, Miranda. But let's focus on his racing career and statistics. Eric McClure would first hit the NASCAR scene around 2003 when he made one start in ARCA, finishing 8th and failing to qualify for one race as well. He would also make his debut Busch Series race at Rockingham driving the 05 Chevrolet owned by Jerry McClure, which he would finish 26th in. Now McClure would race for many teams in his career in different series, some even owned by the McClure family and Morgan McClure Racing. But I'm saving that particular journey of that team for the Rise and Fall series. We're not going to get that much into that right now. Now, while many sponsors would race with McClure, none were probably as loyal to him than the Hefty brand and Reynolds Wrap. It seemed like no matter what happened, he always had them to back him up into a ride. So, McClure was able to compete in 4 races in ARCA, failing to qualify for 1, and he recorded 1 top 10 finish at Michigan, driving the number 4 Kodak Chevrolet. By 2004, he attempted 2 times to qualify in the Truck Series, but failed both times. And then between 7 years, he also made 3 Cup Series starts, getting an average finish of 29th, but it can't be ignored that he failed to qualify for 12 races as well. But then there's the series he spent the most of his time in during his career in what is now known today as the Xfinity Series. And to make it short and sweet for this one, in 288 starts, also failing to qualify for 28 races, Eric McClure only recorded 1 top 10 during his Xfinity Series career, and he posted an average finish of 27th place. And as sad as this is, most NASCAR fans perhaps remember him best for his 2012 crash at Talladega, which saw him airlifted after being extracted from his car to a Birmingham hospital. McClure would be out for 4 races after this, while Jeff Green drove his number 14 in his absence. In 2016, he made one last start in Johnny Davis's number 0 of Reynolds Wrap as a sponsor at Daytona, where he would finish in 30th place. Aside from this, he and former driver Hal Martin fielded a K&N Series team under the name Martin McClure Racing with the number 39 car that was drove by both Chad Fincham as well as Austin Cindric. Connie Saylor. If you love the story of journeyman in NASCAR, then Connie definitely fit the bill, and for me, this guy has a personal meaning for me to highlight him. Back before I was running a NASCAR YouTube channel, I had dreams of bass fishing tournament glory, and to start my career, I decided to begin in the FLW BFL series in the volunteer division, and while I was definitely not ready for this level of competition in 2013 at the age of 17, I wanted to see what it was all about, and so I entered, and in this series, as a co-angler, you are assigned to a random boater to fish with. And who did I happen to get in this tournament? Why, none other than my now friend Mr. Tim Saylor, the son of Connie Saylor. That day on the water with him was a lot of fun, and Tim has since told me about times he recalled being in the infield at races while his dad raced, and he even hung out with the likes of Dale Earnhardt Jr. when they were kids. It was a chance by fate that this pairing occurred, but I'm really glad that it did. Connie Saylor was a native of Johnson City, Tennessee, and he started a mining and industrial tire and wheel business to support the family of wife Shirley and children Tim and Tracy. Connie was the kind of racer who never needed to go out there and run for points, but rather just that right guy to go out and just run the car the best he could. Perhaps one of Connie's most memorable moments came in the 1981 Twin 125 at Daytona when his car spun out of turn 2 and his car went into the air, sliding down the backstretch on his roof for around 1,000 feet. He was not injured in this crash, and needless to say, he also did not qualify for the 1981 Daytona 500. Over the span of 12 years, Saylor made a total of 58 starts, and he failed to qualify in 20 races, and in his first race, the 1978 race at Atlanta Motor Speedway, Saylor would finish 8th place. This, however, would not just be his career best finish, but it was also his only top 10 in NASCAR, as he never got one in his 4 Busch Series starts either. He did, however, record a 10th place finish at Talladega in ARCA in 1986, driving the number 64 of Elmo Langley. By 1989, at the age of 49, the Johnson City Journeyman's NASCAR days were done, and sadly, shortly after, he developed cancer, which would take his life in 1993 at just the age of 52. No age to die at all. And that will do it for the 14th edition of 5 NASCAR drivers you forgot about. Let it be known that when a driver goes on this list, it's not meant to be insulting, and rather, I just believe it's crucial to remember everyone who has contributed to NASCAR's past, present, and future in some way. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if so, please leave a like on the video. It really does help my channel out a lot. If you're new to my channel, this is one of my favorite series, as well as Rise and Fall. I do videos like these, as well as my weekly news show, Danny B Needs a Minute, which I believe you would like as well. If all of that sounds good, or if you just haven't done so already, then please hit subscribe for all future content from me. I also stay active on Twitter, and you can follow me at DannyBTalks on there as well. Until the next video, I thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.